oh, use this app for transportation, this app for transportation, this one's the best. I'm gonna tell you, just do Google Maps. That's it. You don't need anything else. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some tips that I would recommend for you if you're planning on studying abroad in Tokyo. And I remember when I was leading up to my study abroad experience, I was like all over YouTube trying to find like tips and tricks, things that other people would recommend specifically for Japan. And honestly, I feel like I didn't find too much. I would just rewatch the same videos that I would find. So I would say this video is for you if you've already seen like the videos out there. This one might be a little bit more specific, I would say. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. I made some notes for this video because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. So I'm going to be like looking at this little notebook of mine. So half the things we're going to be mentioning are going to be kind of like leading up to the trip. And then half the other things are going to be tips for when you're actually in Japan. The first thing I want to mention is probably something you've been hearing from your study abroad offices. Buy a changeable tickets, and also try to buy from an airline that will let you check in 2 bags, because I shopped so much when I was in Japan. I left America with 1 checked bag and a carry-on suitcase, and I left Japan with 3 checked bags and 1 carry-on suitcase. So honestly, booking a flight with an airline that allowed me to check in 2 bags saved me some money because I only had to pay for 1 additional bag. It was really helpful for me because I bought a changeable ticket and allowed me to change my return date to the US until a later date because I wanted to visit Korea before I left. Number 2, definitely take COVID tests and medications. I brought everything. I brought Tylenol, I brought Mucinex, I brought Claritin, I brought all these things. And they were so helpful. I brought like 10 COVID tests, and I'm gonna tell you, like, either you have a super strong immune system or you're gonna get sick while you're studying abroad. I studied abroad for 3 months in Japan, and I was sick for the entirety of May. Not like deathly sick, but I just had a cold. I was always sniffling, things like that. And so it was really helpful to have like American medication. Having my Tylenol and everything, it was honestly a lifesaver, just because I felt like it was more convenient, and I feel like my body was already used to those medications. And since I wasn't fluent in Japanese, I didn't know like what medications would be best for me. Also, the COVID tests were super helpful because when I would get sick, I would think like, is this COVID or is it just a cold? And so having a COVID test really kind of reassured me. I was also able to help other people in my dorm. So if someone else got sick, I gave them like a COVID test or 2 just so they can know, like, do I need to quarantine or just wear a mask or something. My third tip, you've heard everyone say this, but don't take out money in the US. Do it when you're in Japan. The thing I want to add to that though is that when I was researching for myself, should I exchange money at the bank before I go or should I do it at the ATMs in Japan? Everywhere said like, oh, do it at 7-Eleven ATMs, do it at 7-Eleven ATMs. But what I was confused on is like, do the 7-Eleven ATMs do it at that current exchange rate or do they inflate it a bit? Basically, if I use like today's conversion rate to yen as an example, if you go to convert your dollars into yen at the bank, they'll inflate that conversion rate. That's where you lose some of the money. But in Japan, they'll give you that 0.0066 rate, but they'll charge a 5% cash advance fee. So basically that cash advance fee kind of makes the prices similar. I found that like if I wanted to exchange 50,000 yen at the Japanese ATM with that 5% cash advance fee, I saved like $7 versus doing it at the bank at home in the US. $7, what would be like over like 1,000 yen in Japan? That could buy you like 2 meals. So honestly, like, save every dollar that you can and just do it in Japan. Just as my tip, change 10,000 yen in the US and then do the rest in Japan. Just don't do it at the airport. Okay, another tip I want to recommend is actually an app. And I know that like all the videos you're watching, they're recommending some kind of app. It's like you need a million apps just to study abroad in Japan. But I will say this one, I feel like I didn't really see a lot of people talking about. I believe it's called XE, and it's basically like a money conversion rate app. So you can just type in like the amount of yen and it'll tell you by that day's rate like what it is in dollars. And the reason why I love this app is because not only like you can add any currency you want, and when you're studying abroad you're going to meet a lot of people from tons of different cultures. Like my roommate was from Europe, she's from Slovakia. Having this app, I added euros to my low conversion rate, so I would type in like 1,000 yen and it would tell me what 1,000 yen would be in dollars and in euros for that day's rate. And I feel like that was so useful because I could just be like, hey, this would be blah blah euros. I recommend download that app. I used it almost like every day when I was in Japan. And talking about apps, everyone's gonna be telling you like, oh, use this app for transportation, this app for transportation, this one's the best. I'm gonna tell you, just do Google Maps. That's it. You don't need anything else. just have Google Maps and you'll be good to go. I was like freaking about the transportation system because if I go somewhere for the 20th time, I'm still gonna need GPS to get there. Like, you know, like I don't have a good sense of direction. I've heard like, oh, it's so complicated, da da da, but it's actually super simple if you have Google Maps. Google Maps will literally tell you, go to this line here at this time, get off at this stop, go to this one at this time, and then you're there. You know, like it gives you such detailed instructions. When you go into the stations, everything is color coded. So different train lines will be different colors. And Google Maps has those colors like on the app. And I felt like that was so helpful because I'd be like, okay, I just need to take the red one. Where's the red line? I will go look at the signs, go follow the one that leads me to the red like little stop. So I would say Google Maps will be your best friend. You don't need all the others. My next tip, buy Fujifilm cameras before you go. This was such a fun little idea. My friends gifted me some Fujifilms before I left, so I had 3, and I feel like that just made everything so fun, and it was really cool to develop them and look back on it and be like, oh my god, I remember this is so cute. My one tip, always use flash. Even if like you're in a bright area, still use flash or else the photos are not going to come out good. Okay, so now we are in Japan, you're at your school. And I went to a school in Tokyo called International Christian University, and it's pretty well known in Japan. Like if you tell locals like, oh, like I go to ICU, we call it ICU for short, they'd be like, oh, ICU, okay, cool. The thing I love about ICU was that it was so welcoming and international. To go to ICU, you have to speak English to a certain degree. So people who like attended there were already kind of open. A lot of people study abroad there, so they were very like open-minded in terms of like learning about different cultures, and everyone knowing English was definitely really convenient because it was really easy to make friends because I was able to have good conversations with them, and they would teach me some Japanese, I would teach them some English, and it just worked out great. So I would totally recommend ICU. Beautiful campus, really fun classes, and amazing people there. Take a Japanese language course if you have space in your schedule for it. One of my big things about going to Japan, I really wanted to learn Japanese. I've been trying to learn Japanese for almost a decade at this point, and so I've tried learning Japanese like so many times, and when I tell you like nothing compares to learning Japanese in Japan in terms of like developing language skills, like it's a whole new world. For example, we would learn in Japanese class like how to invite people for something, and then I would go to my club activities after school and I would tell my friends like, oh, do you want to study at the cafe, or like, oh, do you want to go to karaoke sometime? Like I would use what I learned that day in class, and I feel like that just helped me be so much more confident in my speaking skills, not only with the Japanese friends I made during my stay, but also just like random strangers, like whether it's asking for directions, ordering food, you know, asking for help, things like that. Like just really made speaking much more natural for me. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this whole video, join a club at your university. I was nervous when I was thinking about like, oh, should I join a club? Should I not join a club? Like I'm a little scared, but honestly, just do it. Put those thoughts away and go for it, because I would have had such a different experience if I didn't join a club. I joined the tennis club at my university, and honestly, being a part of that club was so awesome because I was able to make so many new friends and also learn so many things about like Japanese club culture, so like school club culture, and it was just super fun. It was also a really welcoming club. It would have like all these events associated with the club. It was great for like the social aspect for sure, and for like just the learning aspect, because as a foreigner, you're going to experience Japan differently. Being able to learn about Japan and Japanese society through the eyes of actual Japanese people and hearing their opinions about it was honestly really fascinating, and I loved that, and just learning about the culture through their eyes. We had a Japanese summer camp, and it was towards the end of my experience, but I remember like always hearing like, oh, like, you know, the camps and everything, the summer camps with the sports and all that, and I really wanted to experience it for myself. And so being able to actually experience a Japanese summer camp where I'm like away for 4 or 5 days, like in the countryside, in the mountains of Japan, playing tennis with my friends and having all these like little mini games and fun events, like that was such an awesome experience. Like that was like peak like integrated Japanese experience, so that was super awesome. So I would say join a club, join multiple clubs if you can. Don't be afraid if you can't speak Japanese. Just, you know, put yourself out there. Try not to be scared. They're super friendly, and you'll probably make friends along the way too. So that would be my number one recommendation. Please join a club, okay? My next thing I really want to recommend is either when you're in Japan or leading up to your Japan trip, go on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever and look up like top 50 songs in Japan. I know Spotify has a playlist for that. It compiles like what the top 50 songs that people are listening to in Japan. Because if you're anything like me, like you know all the anime songs, you know One OK Rock songs, maybe Radwimps, but like you don't actually know what people are listening to there. So I felt like that was really good for me to actually know like what people are listening to, so that when people were talking about their favorite artist, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know like that artist. Or I would hear songs on the street and I would actually know the song because I like heard it on that playlist, or in the club, especially if they were playing Japanese music. I would recommend you to do that. It's like a good way to be immersed in the culture. And with that, something that I did with my Japanese friends that I really enjoyed was I made a playlist and I called it osusume, which means recommendation. And I basically would give it to one of my friends and be like, hey, put in like your top 3 favorite songs right now. Like what songs are you on repeat like constantly that are Japanese? And they would add it, and then I would tell them like, oh, pass it to the next person. And I would just have my phone passed around to like my table of friends. And I'd be like, put like your top 3 favorite songs for me to listen to. And I feel like that was also really a good way to find out like what groups or bands or artists that people are listening to in Japan, or what my friends were listening to. So that also was like a cool way to discover new music, which I also recommend you do with your Japanese friends. Okay, the last thing I want to say is try not to say no in Japan. And what I mean by that is to experiences. You know, something that makes you nervous, like if you're not the type of person to go clubbing, just try it once. If you don't like matcha ice cream, just try it once. Like go out of your comfort zone. And that's coming from someone who gives herself a really like strict schedule in the terms of like studying and academics. In California, like when I was studying at UCSD, I had like a very consistent schedule where I would, you know, like go to sleep at a certain time and study from a certain time to this time, because I was really invested in my academics. There were things where, you know, people, my roommates are watching a movie at like 12 a.m. and I have an 8 a.m. class. Like I would just be like, hey guys, I think I'm just gonna sleep instead. I put school and studying first, and then social life came after that. But if you're in Japan, experiences are at greater value than sleep. And when I tell you, like, I barely slept when I was in Japan. Like, I had got, like, the worst sleep of my life in Japan, but I don't regret it, because I knew, like, I have to absorb as much as I can while I'm here. I was only there for 3 months. It might be a little different if I was there for a year, but I just knew, like, okay, like, I want to squeeze out as much as I can out of this experience. So, like, I would literally go clubbing. And in clubbing in Japan, you have to club until the first train, which is at like 4 a.m. So I would club from like 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then I would have like an 8 a.m. class like that day. Like I was like going hardcore. Like, you know, if I had like a test to study for that was at 8 a.m. But my friends, my Japanese friends were like, oh, let's go karaoke, you know, until like 11 p.m. Like I would go, like, you know, don't say no to these kinds of things. And I would also add on to that, if you're living in a dorm especially, and if people invite you things, don't say no, like no matter what. Like try not to say no. If people are like, oh, we're gonna go on a hike, even if you hate hiking, just say yes. Or like, oh, you know, we're gonna go eat food, even if you just ate, say yes. Like, because those will help you build those social connections, make friends with people in your dorm. And I would say that's super important early on, because early on is where people are making their friendships that will grow and, you know, kind of solidify as the quarter goes on or the semester goes on. So finding, you know, your friends, your friend group, I feel like is really crucial to like your study abroad experience. And if you're living in a dorm especially, making friends is going to be easy. Just be open to everything. Be a nice person and you will make friends. You really don't have to worry about it too much. Just, yeah, try to say yes to all the plans, make plans yourselves and invite people, things like that. And I would feel like if I kept that same mindset that I had when I was studying in the US, in Japan, I would not have had as much of a fun time. Because you are there to study, yes, and I would say like I had a bit of privilege in the fact that the classes I was taking there wasn't towards my degree, so they were a little bit more easier for me. But like as much as you can, try to just experience whatever you can while you're there, and try to put studying not completely in the back of your mind. Don't fail your classes and things like that, but also have fun while you're there. Don't be so rough on yourself, you know, sacrifice your sleep for a bit of fun. Yeah, that being said, have an amazing time while you're studying abroad. I am like the #1 advocate for studying abroad now. As soon as I hear someone be like, oh, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, girl, do it. Like, just do it. You will not regret it. It was the best experience of my life. Like, I'm jealous of you guys because you guys are gonna have a blast. Be in the moment, be present, take lots of pictures and videos, step outside of your comfort zone and just have fun, okay? And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll probably be answering questions in the comments as well because I love talking about this. Let me know if you want me to make another video by liking and commenting and subscribing. That's gonna be it for today's video, and I hope to see you on my next one. Bye!